This is Align and Elevate by Letitia May Collective. Not just a podcast, but a movement where soul meets strategy, purpose ignites impact, and growth is sacred. This is your space to become powerfully you and wildly aligned. Let's rise together. Hi, and welcome to Align and Elevate podcast. I'm Letitia, your host from the Letitia May Collective, and today we're going to be joined by Shahnee O'Connor. She's our beautiful guest speaker. She's a truth seeker, an intuitive entrepreneur who isn't afraid to speak from the heart. Her journey into digital business and the crypto space was fueled by a deep desire to protect her body, soul, and family from the corruption she's seen throughout history in our modern systems. Shahnee follows her intuition and discernment as guiding forces, often tapping into a deep inner knowing that transcends logic. She doesn't claim to have all the answers, but her lived experience and fearless voice invite conversations most people shy away from. She's here to share her insights, her unapologetic perspective on creating a life of alignment, and her journey of soul evolution. And the conversation that we've had today has been absolutely epic. So let me introduce Shahnee to you. Mine's in a Pokemon.
Jigglypuff. We're a Pokemon family. Cheers.
My girls like Pokemon.
Yeah, Scotty loves Pokemon. He's a Pokemon collector.
What do you like about Pokemon? I know nothing about it. My daughters like it, and they tell me Jigglypuff and Pikachu, but there's a difference between Pikachu and Pichu.
Oh, goodness. You really don't know anything about it. My partner's a literal Pokemon collector.
And like all the different stages that they evolutions. Because as you evolve in life, you change.
Yep. My biggest thing is soul evolution. Like that was the only thing that landed for me today was like, make sure you talk about soul evolution. Actually buys Pokemon, he's been buying them for years as investments, and they're, you know, they could be like $150 when he buys them, but now they're worth $6,000, $10,000, $20,000.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's how that's one side of investments. So that's why I looked into crypto, because it's like, well, what's my investments? What's my long-term investments? Yeah.
And we've got to generate money and work out ways that we can do it different to what the system tells us that we can do it.
Exactly.
So how do we go about generating that money and generating the different streams of income?
And working out how do you, because you hear it all the time from the richest people in the world, how do you make your money work for you? How do you make it grow in your sleep? And I've always been on this journey of looking into how can I make that happen, because passive income or making my money grow has been an interest of mine, coming from like how I grew up. And also looking at how manipulated or corrupted the system is to make you fear walking into those spaces. And that's why people don't move into it. It comes back to why they suppress the spiritual people in the first place, isn't it? So that we don't realize our true power and our true creation, how powerful we could be to be in those rooms, to be the most resourceful people in the rooms. It's like, oh, we don't want that. You guys
I love the analogy we just like landed with Pokemon in the fact that they have to go through their battles. They have to go through all of these different things. I'm a very novice when it comes to Pokemon, but to evolve and to come into their next version and their next state. So it's a really great.
Funny, they have trainers as well. So they have like mentors.
They can't do it themselves. They have to be,
Yeah. And there's a lot of like friendship and people like coming together, and they all have to work together. And it's also about not individuals. It's about the whole of the community, the whole of the Pokemon have to work together, and they see like the evolution of the planet and the love for humans and the love for humanness.
I'm thinking we're going to have to go ask Pokemon if we can trademark this as well with them and say, hey, look, you guys are a great metaphor for
these two girls that know nothing about Pokemon trying to put together.
To evolve into our different phases and to our different states, and even the stages of life. You start off at the little version of you that is still powerful and still amazing and still the baby version, and then as you grow and evolve, it morphs. I've got Eevee in my head, and Eevee's evolution.
I love Eevee.
Two of my girls love Eevee as well.
Yeah. We were going to call our baby Eevee. Yeah.
From Jigglypuff. It's all about evolution.
Neela loves Jigglypuff. My daughter loves Jigglypuff because she sings, and she loves singing, and she sings the actual song. Yeah, Jiggly's a puff. She's a singer, but she puts people to sleep so nobody hears her sing. How sad.
What's her evolution? What's her evolve or whatever you call it? I don't know.
I forgot. It's a bigger pink version of her.
Does she get heard? I'm
Huh?
wondering if she ends up getting heard in the future where she actually gets to have her voice and
Yeah.
her expression.
Well, the power of like her gift is to put people to sleep. So if she's evolving, it'd be bigger. You know what I mean?
Maybe to dive deeper into the subconscious, because as you
Yeah.
sleep, you go into those different brainwave states. Who were the creators of Pokemon? Oh my gosh.
I know. There's so many things that you watch in anime or even movies in general, which I heard there's a lot of seeding involved as well in the movies of like seeding what they're going to do in the future so that people, when they see it, they accept it, especially if humor is involved. They accept that reality. Let's say the AI takes over, robots take over the world. People accept that reality because they see it over and over and over and they accept it. We don't know what's real, right? So eventually, when it does happen, people accept that reality, but almost to the fact that they brought it forward because the thought created the reality. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
whoa.
It's already implanted. They're already thinking about it. It's already then out there in the universe
Yeah.
as a collective energy. Do you know what's interesting? When I first started, I don't know if it was when I first started my business or it was a little way into it, but the girls were little. They were watching Mario Brothers when it first came out. You know,
Yes.
the kind, yeah. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching the movie because we played it growing up and there was played it on Nintendo and Game Boys and whatever it else. But the girls were just getting into Mario Brothers and they just got a Nintendo Switch and they were just playing, you know, the go-kart game. Listen to me, I know all the concepts and all the terms. But as I'm kind of not watching it, I'm posting socials on my Instagram page. I was kind of watching it at the same time. I'm going, what is this movie? There are children going down into underground tunnels. There are portals into other worlds and outer worlds. There was some other
Mushrooms.
concepts and yes. And I'm
Mushroom
like,
world.
mushroom and the like it blew my mind what the concept behind the movie Mario Brothers was actually about. And I was like, they
Mm.
really put this like at the time I was aware. At the time I saw and knew and went down many rabbit holes around different conspiracy theories and different truths around, you know, children and underground trafficking and all of that. And yet here they are putting it on a childhood movie. I'm like,
Wow.
what the actual fuck? Like, why are they
That's
putting
so
this?
true.
And they make it innocent, right? They make it
Yeah.
so that it's not an intrusive, out there concept, but it's
Mm.
hidden away in these underlying currents of these movies and these themes. And you just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you watched Powerpuff Girls recently? Like,
Oh,
oh,
not
so cute. I
recently.
remember
I
back then.
remember when I was a kid and I watched them.
Yeah, like loved it, right? You watch it now, you listen to it, and you're like, whoa, the misogyny is next level.
Oh,
And the
wow.
way they make the girls play on being a girl and using their sex appeal, literally, I was like, whoa, and like what a girl should be and not like that nice and all those things. And I was like, every single scene is seeded with this stuff. And I was like, holy moly, no wonder why our generation was so okay with being like that because it's in our cartoons.
Yeah, yeah, it's what we were
It was
fed
pretty
every,
crazy.
what do we watch? Agro's Cartoon Connection or whatever it was of a morning.
Yeah, and how rude he was to his
Yes.
puppeteer, and yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts when you really dive into it. Actually, one of the girls I follow, she's a healer as well, and she's beautiful. I love her energy. And she came out with a post the other day, and I was like, whoa, like that hit the nail on the head. Like she was like, I have been hating my body since I was a little girl and conditioned to believe that my body has always been used, you know, like used as a thing to look at and to be a good girl and also to be ashamed of my body and to hide it and to be skinny and all these things, right? And you're like, yes, 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 yes. That's where we all talk about this stuff. She goes, did you know the word whore came from back in the day and it got changed? Someone in the church or something called Mary Magdalene a whore and was actually derived, that wording was derived from womb and something else. And basically saying like her body, like he was, what do you call it when you like disrespect? He was disrespecting her body in that word. And then that word carried on and was put into the Bible. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like, wow,
So
like
they
even very
bastardized the
early.
word whore from its actual meaning, which is your etymology. So if we go and look it
Yes.
up, the etymology, I might even put that in the show notes actually, on what the etymology of whore is. They bastardized it, made her to look like she was a skank. Let's call it, to blackmail. But do you know that the church has since overridden that, and they've
Oh,
come out
good.
with a yeah. So they have come out
Apology.
only recently, but they did it very quietly. They did it
Of course.
very quietly that they overrode and said, well, no, we actually rebuke that statement, and we know that she wasn't, and people are still caught up on the old story. So it's like that never happened anyway.
Yeah, it's really hard to know because it's like, what's the story or the narrative that is pushed through your ancestry and
Mm-hmm.
that I've never even heard any of the stories, and yet in my body felt like, that's interesting that I feel that way about that word, or I feel this
Yes.
way about this word.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you're like,
Yeah.
but your
It's
inner
another way
knowing
to
or your
belittle
soul has
women.
been through so many, for me, lifetimes. And it's just like all that stuff is carried in my body and my body remembers. And my subconsciously, I'm like, none of that happened in this lifetime. What are you talking about?
Yeah. 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 And
Crazy.
that comes into ancestral trauma, that comes into past life healings. And so that's
Mm,
why we do past life regressions. That's why we go in and we integrate our soul and our electromagnetic makeup, our DNA, our code, so that we can come back together and go, actually, I can heal those things for us to bring into the now, right?
yeah. That was probably the biggest mind blowing moment. And I love all my mind blowing gems that I get in conversations. I get them in
Yes.
conversation,
Yeah.
not just the courses and the workshops and the retreats. I love them. Don't get me wrong. But it's the moments, it's the daily moments that you actually receive intuitive guidance through people, through yourself, through your thought patterns. If you're still enough to listen.
Yes.
And it's like we were having a conversation, we were talking about past lives. And I said, yeah. I went back, did a timeline healing. It was amazing. And then you said, did you know you could go into your past life and you could change the story or change what happens right there and then? And I'm like
Yes.
what?
Help it play
That's
out
amazing.
differently, change the magnetic, like the makeup of that, release the hold that that story has. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's very,
Recode it.
very powerful stuff. Yeah, the whole, like what I've come to realize, I think my biggest shift this year was when I realized that I was nothing. That was the
Mm.
biggest shift. When I
Mhm.
had nothing, and then I realized that I had nothing, that I was nothing. Because in that moment, when you realize that you are nothing, you realize that you are also everything. And I was like,
It's so we do a practice when we're cleansing out our chakras and working with sacred geometry where you come back to that 0 point. You come back to the 0 point to clean it out, and then you expand it again. And coming back allows it to, like, it's like a breath. It's so interesting because this is so interrelated to the conversation I had last night with Danica, and in the sense of focus on nature around us, because they're showing us that
yeah.
ability to breathe with nature, to
Mhm.
expand and to contract, and to allow
Mhm.
ourselves to be able to do that so we can go with the cycles of life and to be
Yeah.
able to generate life force. Every time that we think of something, it comes back, and then we grab it and we think something more and comes back, and
Mm.
it creates our reality. So it's like a beautiful cycle.
So funny because the three symbols that have been coming up lately for me is the lotus,
Mm,
the waves, the ocean, and the
mm,
moon. And
mm.
it's like the three symbols that keeps coming through for me, as well as the spiral. So I was sharing with a friend the spiral, and I said, the spiral's everywhere in life, in nature, and geometry of life is showing you. Life teaches us
Yes.
literally everywhere. And the spiral for me is you start in the center as a soul, a pure soul that knows everything. But then as life, you can come into your toddlers, you're a baby, you're pure, you see everything, you see through veils, you know all. And then as life happens, you have parents and you hear things, you see things, then you go through some traumas, then you keep moving outside this spiral and gets bigger. And then you go through life and teenage years and then the 20s and then the pains and the heartbreaks and relationships, and you further yourself out, right? And conditionings and expectations, etc. Now you're so far from your truth. And the journey of coming home is to come back down through that spiral and to
Mm-hmm.
uncondition yourself and to heal and to see through the lies or the perspective, changing your perspective on the story, and then forgiveness and acceptance. And then it comes all the way back to your truth. And I was like, that's what the spiral is to me. It's like this whole journey, yes, to be human, to love your humanness and to live life and all of its emotions to feel, but also to come home back to your truth and to your true
Mm.
nature. And I was like,
So
oh,
when you felt like you were nothing, had nothing, and were everything all at once, do you feel like you're on the outermost spiral, like Link, and then you're coming back in, or you reckon you were on your way in anyway?
it's a long journey to the
Kind of
center.
goes out and then in, and then
But
out and then
also,
in.
like, I feel like you have moments where you touch the center.
Oh yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? You touch the
Yeah.
center and you're like, "Oh, it feels good." So it's for some people, I hear them, I can already hear, "Well, do I have to reach 50 before I touch the center?" No, it can happen in an instant. It's a thought, it's a feeling. You can
Yep.
reach the center. So the nothing and the everything is a center feeling. That
Mm-hmm.
to me is a center feeling.
0 point. Yeah. 0 point. Hey, we are everything and nothing all at once. And that change and that moment comes from awareness. It comes from curiosity, from being able to ask the question, is this it? Is
Yeah.
this what life is all about? What else is there out there? Like just
Yes.
starting to be really curious around your own
Who am
environment,
I?
going, yeah,
Mm.
who am I? And the statement, and this keeps coming back in this week for a lot of people in my sphere, is if you keep doing the same things that you've always done, you'll always get the same things that you've always gotten. So if you don't want to keep being in the position that you're in, you need to change. And that might be changing the types of shoes you wear to work. It might be changing the outfit you wear. It might be changing your routine of the morning or what you eat or don't eat in the morning. It
Mhm.
might be changing up your beverage, but you've got to start somewhere and start the change, because one change leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and the unraveling then begins, right? And
Yeah.
that coming back to center begins.
We
But you can't.
unconsciously repeat the past unconsciously.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And it's about, so I've been really questioning. I've spoken to you before. One of my signature program is around self mastery, right? And I keep contemplating on this as I'm formulating the signature program and getting it ready. And it all comes back to awareness. And you have to be so acutely aware of what is landing in your sphere, from
Mm.
all of the different elements to all the different sensations in your body to all the different conversations, like linking back to the conversation we had before. We all have codes for one another to allow us to have that ability to go, I remember. And it's kind of like a hypnotic program. I don't know if you've ever watched the movie Hypno. It's got Ben Affleck in it. I can't remember the name of it.
I don't think I
But
did.
it's actually a really curious movie when you get into hypnosis and learn about it. And what happens is they set him up, and I can't paraphrase the movie entirely because it's been a while since I've watched it, but he was a really powerful hypnotist, and he plays out certain elements over and over and over again, like a movie, just on repeat. And then he gets to a certain section and it's like he's trying to unbreak a puzzle. But what he's done is he's made that certain sequences actually triggers and unlocks remembrance for him. It triggers and unlocks for him to then be free of the controls and the mechanisms they put in place to make sure that he doesn't become powerful again. And when we think about that movie and the underlying themes and seeds that are planted in that, we are on that same journey. We were placed in a program and they keep programming us with all of these things, and we've got to be able to have certain conversations and codes and experiences and events and people land in our lives for us to be able to share and to unlock the remembrance of who we truly are, right?
Yeah. Oh,
I
I
love it.
love that
It's so
because it's
cool. You're going to go
exactly
watch it now. I'm going to go find it for you and send it to you.
yeah, no, because it's exactly how I feel about when I meet people. Like
Yes.
every single contract that you've ever made with every soul, even the checkout chick, even the person walking past the street, every single contract has been already pre-made. You made it.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so I hear people like really hating on their ex and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you made that contract, babe. You made
Mm.
it and it was there for you to teach you, there for you to learn something, there for you to get the codes off that one person. And it may have been a really unfortunate thing Like we've all had unfortunate things happen to us in our lives. And it's like, you signed up for that. You made that contract for a reason. And it's like, and if you're repeating the same pattern in yoga philosophy, they're called samskaras, and like a scar, and it keeps repeating and repeating. And you're like, I am repeating the same suffering over and over and over. Why does this keep happening? It's like, because you keep doing the same shit.
Yeah, every single day
Repeating
you
your
keep
own
making the same
pattern.
choices.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's your choice, not their choice. I think
Mm.
people but they keep doing it. It's like, no, but what are you doing? It's a
Yeah.
two-way contract. What are you doing to put yourself back in that position? What choices are you making? What words are you using? What thoughts are you doing? What beliefs are you still running by that keeps you there, that keeps you, and you'll move on to another relationship and the same shit will happen. And
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
everything is you. The common denominator is you.
Yeah,
I
we
was
do.
just gonna say, I like that it's different to most podcasts. I don't really want to talk about myself, even though I've got plenty of stories and everyone's got plenty of stories. But it's not about me. It's like, what does the person that's listening, what
The
do they
collective need to
need
hear.
to hear?
Yeah.
What is the
Yeah.
code? What is the activation? What is the key for them to be like, fuck, I'm enough? You
Yes.
know what I mean? Like, fuck, I'm worthy. I could do that. I'm overqualified for whatever I'm doing. And it's like, you just need the audacity. You just need the belief in yourself. And I know this because I suffer from self-belief, self-doubt for fucking years, to the point, like, as a little girl, I would be too modest to say I was a good netball player. Like, come on. Like, just say it. You're a good little player. Oh, yeah, I'm okay. I could be
We
better.
downplay our awesomeness, don't we?
Can play everything. Oh, yeah, you're really talented. I'm like, oh, this person's better. Comparison. Oh, my goodness. It's like, what if nobody existed? Are you good enough now? Like,
Yeah, wow.
are
It's
you
actually
good
really
enough now?
interesting. Throughout the week, I learned a new modality, soul braiding. It was really interesting, really cool. And throughout that, I had some unravelings, right? As you do when you're going through different processes, it's like it opens up for something else. And there was a part of me. So we talked into society having the woman's body as a projection. And we all know I've put on a little bit of weight in the last 12 months, a lot of weight in the last 12 months. So there's a part of me that doesn't like my body, right? And so this was really coming up. And it's really interesting that comparison has come up in the last couple of conversations that I've had on here, because it shows into, well, even that desire to not like that, this part of me that has put on weight. I'm not saying I don't like all the parts of me, because I do. I love my success. I love my clients. I love my life. I love my family. I love, I love everything about it. However, my body image, I do not like right now. And how do you know that you don't like your body image right now? And it comes down to comparison. Well, I know that in the past, I felt amazing when I was fit and I was healthy and I was 20 kilos less. I know I looked great. I know I felt great. So there's a comparison, right? It's not even an external validation or external comparison. It's a comparison of myself from a previous version of me. So it's really interesting that comparison keeps landing in, because it's sort of like, well, hang on, you actually have to benchmark yourself to not like yourself or to have some form of judgment of any form, right? And it has to come back to comparison.
And it's interesting, when you first started that conversation, you said, and we all know that I've put on weight. And I'm like, who knows? Who knows?
That's an interesting insight.
I 100% resonate with everything that you just said, because I
Yeah.
also have felt this. And I've actually been on that journey for 15 years. Like a 10-year of it it started off with me fainting all the time and not literally being in the hospital. And I lived that way since I was a baby. So even like my first year of school, I was fainting at bus stops. I was fainting in classrooms. I'd faint everywhere. And doctors would be like, you're fine. Just need to eat a little bit of meat. Eat some meat. And I was like, my dad's a butcher. I eat plenty of meat. Literally every meal is meat. So it ain't that. And they just kept pushing it off and pushing it off. And I was like, oh my God, no one's going to actually help me. And I was really, really skinny. And I went my whole 20s fainting in places that, are scary, driving. And I delved into, finally moved away from the system, went down to a naturopath, and she was like, oh, you just, this and this and this needs to change. And you've got low blood sugar and da da da. I was like, oh, thank you. So I just need to eat better. Thank you so much. I don't digest red meats very well. That's a clue. So I moved on
Yeah.
this train, and then from 10 years, I was in this. I wanted to lose weight. I lost 16 kilos. I put on lean muscle. I got the muscliest I've ever been. I had abs. I had muscles. I was running classes. My sister and I did literally 8 years of running boot camps. Could you
Yeah. Wow.
imagine the focus we had on health and weight? And our
Mm.
specialty was helping women lose weight. And now, 2 years later, like 2 years after we finished boot camp, we took a crumbling, we got, kicked in the guts. I put on 20 kilos. And I was like, oh my God. I went back into the system of working in corporate life, no lunches, no breaks. You know how it is. You're just busy, busy, busy.
Stress overload, cortisol overload. Yeah.
Cortisol
Or
overload,
underload. Yeah.
hormones, you're
Yeah.
getting older, you're not 20 anymore, you're in your 30s.
Hmm.
Boom, you're 20 kilos heavier. How do you think that's going to make you feel? And it is confronting. It is still
Puffy.
confronting. Yeah, puffy and just like
Puffy.
squishy and, you know,
Curvaceous.
curvaceous. Luckily, my man loves curvaceous, so that's okay. And he's seen all of me. He's seen all different body sizes. My
Yeah.
gosh, through pregnancy, after pregnancy, our body goes through so much. And now I'm in a space of like loving my body
Mm.
for its curves. I look at every scar, I look at every stretch mark now, and I say, thank you. Thank you for creating
Mm.
my child. I have a big scar across my belly that nobody obviously knows about because everyone knows. No, nobody knows. Only you
Mm.
know. And only you can accept yourself. And like you said, is it the external validation? Is it the benchmark? It's looking at everybody online and going, oh, but they look fit, they got the time, excuse why you don't have it. And I did this. Ooh, okay, it's coming in for a reason. I did this healing thing with Springs. His name's Springs. He's a multi body healer. And so, you do Reiki, right? He does Reiki, but he presses on the point. Have you ever done that?
It's sort of like an acu energy pressure type work.
Yeah, it's like midi midi or rummy rummy. I can't remember what it's called, but
Yeah.
you press on the point of where the pain is, and your body holds stuff. Kinesiology, super gentle. Thematic release, a little bit less gentle. Icky, so gentle. This stuff, oof, hot damn, you better be ready to cry. You better be ready to sweat. It's like pressing on your pain and then asking you to breathe through it. And it's like
Mhm.
pushing down, and it's not forceful, but because your body is holding it, it's like breathe,
Yeah.
breathe,
Yeah.
breathe, breathe, breathe. It's like a horse is behind a gate, and then when you finally hit it, the horse
Yeah.
goes and the releases. And so
Mm.
he did it on my back, and it was how you feel about yourself
Mm.
internally. And he just touched it, and I just, well, the relief. And he gave me a little gem, and he said, I've been on the weight loss journey for years, and recently I lost all this weight and I feel healthy and happy. And do you know what the secret to losing weight is? And I was like, what? Tell me.
I
He's
want to
like,
know.
yeah. He's like, happiness.
Mm.
I was like, what? He's like, happiness, being happy, because your weight is showing up when you're not truly happy, because that's why you're
Because you're
doing
holding
these
on
things.
to the
You're
things that you don't
numbing,
want to
or
hold on to. Yeah.
you're doing all these things to avoid it.
Emotional eating, stress eating, filling up because your body is in that chemical reaction of stress response, it then craves all these certain things. And yeah.
Right. So it's like truly happiness. So it's going back to what lights you up. Follow your
Mm.
joy, follow your light. I was like, he's like, are you
Mm.
truly enjoying how you're training, how you're eating, what you're eating? I'm like, no, it's strict. It's a chore. And he goes, right. So it needs to come back into what makes me feel happy.
What makes
What
yeah.
do I actually want to eat? What does my body want to eat?
What makes you so I had a friend over the other weekend. We had dinner and I cooked creamy garlic pasta, scallops and prawns. And my family
Mm,
don't eat seafood, so I'm the only one that does. And I just made it for her and the kids got something else. And do you know how excited I was on the inside? I was like a little girl in a candy store. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I haven't felt this excited about food for so long. And as a mum, because you're cooking family foods, and half the time my children complain about things that they ask for. Like They're
Yeah.
never freaking happy, right? They're
Yeah.
just like, I don't want to eat that. This is horrible. It's like, I just spent hours cooking for you and preparing this food for you. Hello. So it becomes a chore. And when you can actually cook from a place of that happiness, that love, that excitement, and enjoy food again,
I
I
love
would
that
live.
you said that 'cause it's totally the same. My family eats crap, and it's literally just me that's, like, craving good food and
Yeah.
seafood and all these mushrooms and all that. So when I do eat like that, I'm, like, all by myself, like, "You enjoying your
Yeah.
nuggets? Yeah, great." But
Yeah.
I was that story that you just said about the kids, so I love all this stuff. So my friend said, imagine this, your daughter wakes up, she comes to you, your little daughter, and she goes, "Mummy, mummy, mummy, like, can you make me a Nutella sandwich?" And you go, "Yeah, sure. Okay, cool." And then you go to the kitchen and you put it's morning, so you put it in the toaster, you toast it, you put the Nutella on it, you're like, "Here you go, darling, like, I prepared this for you." And she looks at it and she goes, "I didn't want it toasted, I wanted a sandwich." And you're like, "Sorry, honey, I'll make another one." "No, you know what? Yuck." And then throws the plate, super ungrateful, and it's like, "I wanted and it tells and you didn't give it to me." It's like, "Well, I did, but you didn't say what you wanted." That analogy to life and the universe, and you saying to the universe, "I want this." And the universe goes, "Okay, here you go." And you go, "Not like that. I didn't want it like that. I want it like this." Oh, ugh, ungrateful. How many times do we do that in our life? And you think to yourself, "Oh my God, like I asked to be in a tiny home. I asked for a place to land. And for the first 6 months, all we did was complain about it. All we did was, oh, the toilet system. Oh, I don't even have an oven. Oh, it's a bit messy. And I'm like, I wish I could have this. I wish I could have. It's like, you can ask for this.
Yeah.
You ask for it. Be more specific next time.
Yeah, that's right. Be more specific, and or if you ask for it, be a bit more open as to how it might come to you. So there's a beautiful little story analogy that sort of talks into a guy was standing on the roof of his house because it was flooding and the waters were rising. And as the
Yeah.
waters were rising, he was told he had to evacuate, he had to get out of there, otherwise he'll die. There was nothing around him to save him, like the waters were rising that rapidly. Anyway, he's like, it's okay. I trust and know that God will save me. God will save me. And a boat comes up and goes, come on, mate, you got to jump on. We've got to get out of here. He's like, no, I know God's coming to save me. I know he's coming to save me. So the boat took off. They didn't want to hang around. They had other people to save. And a little while later, a second boat comes up. And he's like, mate, you got to get on the boat. The water's lapping up around your feet. He's like, nope, I know God's going to save me. And then a third boat comes when it's up around his waist and, really rising really fast now. And he goes, no, 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 I know God's going to save me. Well, he ends up dying, doesn't he? And because he didn't jump on the boat. And as he gets up to the pearly gates, he says to God, why didn't you come save me? And God goes, I gave you 3 bloody boats. Like, what more do you want? And it's like, he had an expectation that somebody was going to come down from heaven and
Mm,
he was going to escape in some glorified way. He had a perception in his mind and he couldn't let go of that. What he
yeah.
didn't see was the things that he asked for, a boat to save him, like something to come along and save him. And God sent him them anyway. So you ask for things, you get them. It may not look like what you asked for, and you may not have been specific enough. He
Yeah,
said God was going to come save him. He did try to come save him, but it wasn't in his mind the perception. So if he said, I want God to swoop down and save me in this way, it may have looked different because he had conviction about what he wanted. Instead, he just said, he wanted God to save him. So
exactly.
God could have come in on a horseback. Like he could have come in any way, shape, or form. But we've got to be grateful and open to take the opportunities that come our way.
Release the how. Release the
Yes.
how. Like, the story of me finding this place came from then the time of, like, when I wanted to like, a few years ago when the mandate dropped, I knew in my body that I didn't want it. My body fully rejected it, and, it went on a big spiral of, like, coming in every day at work crying just because I knew they were like, "We want you to stay. You're gonna lose your whole income. Like, what are you gonna do?" My partner had to leave his work because we both chose. When I chose it, I lost my 4-bedroom home, lost my job, any opportunities. I sold everything in my home, every last thing except for a dining table, kept on that. I moved into my brother-in-law's house. His house flooded literally the day of moving in. I was
Wow.
like, oh my goodness, like what is happening? And then you don't see the bigger picture. You see in the moment, you see, oh my God, I am forsaken. I am, I
This
had
is
to couch
happening
hop.
to me right now, not for me. You're like,
Yes,
it's sort of
life is
like, holy
happening
shit.
to me. Life is
Yeah.
happening to me. Poor me. Woe is me. But there was a little knowing. There was a little voice in my soul saying, you're going to be okay. You'll be okay. Like we got you. And I was like, okay, yeah, I trust, I trust, I trust. And I was couch hopping my sister's houses. Then we got a phone call from the brother-in-law and he said, my insurance is coming and they're going to put us in hotels and fully paid for. And we've asked for 2 families to stay in them. I was like, thank you. That's cool. But in the time you're moving every single month, almost every 2 months they had a 9-month-old baby and a 5-year-old or 4-year-old and our kid was 4. And so you're moving these children around every 2 months. And it's a lot. It's a lot. You're moving all the way down to Burleigh, then all the way back up to Southport, then all the way down south, and then all the way all of that, as well as I was running yoga classes for nothing. He got paid nothing, and I was totally okay with that. I have no idea why, but I wanted to build a business with my sister. So I was there at 5 a.m, no home, couch surfing, just in service because I was like, I trust. I did that for a whole 16 months, and I just knew I was like, I trust. And my partner and I were having issues, because I'm like, you've got to go find work. And he's like, well, if we didn't do this thing, none of this would have happened. So it was that pressure of like, this is your fault. This is
Mm.
why we're in this situation because you made us do this. And I was like, oh my gosh, man. It hurt. It hurt.
And at the
And it
same
was,
time, he's a sovereign being and he still had a choice. Like
of
he
course,
still made the choice himself. But
I'm
anyway,
pretty,
that's a different
pretty persuasive.
conversation.
Yes. But I was like, yes, 100% choices were all made. And I have no regrets now. Trust me, I have no regrets because that whole time was a silver cloud. We had no income, but we had no outgoings. Whoa, almost for 2 years. Who could say that? It was like we were fully held and I had trickles of money coming in randomly to cover us, always
Yeah.
covering us. And I was like, something's happening because this is kind of a miracle, don't you reckon? But, got to keep my woo-woo to myself. And I was like, no, everything's working really well. Anyway, I got another phone call. Brother-in-law goes, insurance is finishing in 2 weeks, which
Mm.
means we won't have anywhere to go. We've got to go back to the house. And I'd already been traveling with this family and I love them, still love them. But I got to the point where I was like, I've had enough. I need to figure this out. And we were amongst the hundreds of people looking for houses in the Gold Coast that were now $800 a week. And I was like, we were barely scraping through. What are we going to do? We don't have any savings. I called my friend who's psychic and I was like, hi, babe, have you got an opening space for me? She does Reiki. I was like, yeah, cool. And I jumped into her space. She had like a little place on the side of her house, walked in, did the Reiki, had an amazing experience. And then the messages came through. And I had a little really hard chat with my team before I came. I said, oi, spirit team, listen up. I need to know where I'm going and I need you to be super clear on where it is because I have 2 weeks. And they were like, nothing. I didn't hear anything. I was like, okay, hope you heard me. So in the messages and I'm waiting, I'm just sitting there waiting like, so where am I going? And she goes, they said you have a dream. I was like, yes. They said the dream is you're in a tiny home. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, it's here. And I was like, what do you mean it's here? She goes, they're saying it's here. And I was like, what do you mean it's here? Because a tiny home is like $200,000 and we don't have that money. And she goes, they see you like looking out into nature with a cup of tea, a fire pit, and like it's super peaceful and you're really happy. And I was like, motherfuckers, are you like, what, how is this going to happen? And she's like,
And
release the
that's the
how.
how, right? We were like, we always get caught up on the how.
Yeah. She goes, she told me a little story about her daughter manifesting a pony. And she goes, you got to release the how. She looked up to the stars. She was dreaming about it. She was stroking the pony. She did all the things. And I was like, okay. Yep. That's what I've been doing. I've been doing this. And she goes, yep. And then her neighbor 3 doors down came knocking on her door and said, hey, Jess, can I put my horses in your paddock and your daughter can have one? And she can name it. She can pat it. She can feed it. She goes, and that little girl who's 7 years old manifested a pony like that. And I was like, okay, all right, I believe. All right. I went home. I had to sleep. I woke up 5 a.m. and I was like, I have an idea.
I have an idea.
And I looked up, how can I rent a tiny home? And I'm looking it up. And the key thing here is I took action. Didn't know what it was, but I took action straight away. I was looking up. It's like, cool. Did you know you can rent a tiny home coming from Brisbane, free transportation? They land it on your land and you could pay $300 to $400 to $500 a week for it. Like, what? Wow.
Great.
Okay. All you need is land. Who do I know that has land? Oh, my friend who I just went to see. Hey, have you got land? Can I put a tiny home on your house, on your land? Yeah, actually, we were looking into doing this. Sure, come on over. You want to come over tomorrow? I'm like, okay, come over tomorrow, rock up. She's telling me the prices. It'll cost you about $20,000 to $50,000 for solar panels, set up the house. You'll need the sewage thing. And I'm like, oh shit, maybe not. Okay. Oh, no, if this is going to work. And she goes, hold that thought. Come back to the office. Come back to this little container that I did my Reiki in. And she goes, what do you think about this? And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, well, I'm moving my office into the house. And so we're going to put this container up for rent.
Yeah, wow.
You can have it. And you can have it in like 2 weeks. And I was like, yes. You don't need any paperwork. You don't need, you know what I mean? Like all the things that I look like shit on paper and it would have never held up in the rental places. And I'm like, oh my God, you. And she was like, yeah, I did say it was here, like literally here. And I was like, oh my gosh. So now I'm just like this whole 2-year thing, like it worked out all right. Thanks for the ride.
And since then, the expansion of your world has just been like one thing after another, hasn't it? Like I've seen, in the short time I've known you, I've seen you grow and blossom, even in that short amount of space, but you were already on that journey before that. And I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I've been on the journey since I was 18 and lots of things have happened. But like you said,
right?
like it's speeding up. There's a speed up of evolution at the moment.
Yes.
Because I'm loosening the grip. I'm loosening the control of what it should look like. I'm surrendering. And I was in such a place of chasing money and success.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I let that go, I realized, what do I actually want? It's not the money. It's what I think money gets me.
Comes back to the feelings and sensations in your body. And 9 times out of 10, those feelings and sensations we already have now. Like even those who make amazing, remarkable and have amazing and remarkable success stories, they often say, I'm doing now what I never perceived I would ever do. So they had to let go of that control and that grip as well, so that the fruition of what they're actually meant to do and what they're meant to be serving humanity and their success and the abundance that comes with it, it can land. Because without loosening that grip, it wouldn't have been able to. The boat would have still come and they would have gone, no, it's got to look this way. This is how it's got to be. And if it's not this way, then I don't want it. It's sort of like, well, actually, this is your gift. This is what you're meant for.
And when you get into that flow state, oh no, you go.
No, I was just going to say, it's interesting because in that control, it's because we come from a place of fear. So the underlying current is fear. When we're fearful of certain things, we need to control more and we need to grip on more. So by loosening and learning how to feel safe in our bodies and feel safe in our environments and feel safe in who we are and how we're showing up, to let go, that in itself is self-mastery. But what were you saying about flow?
Yeah, well, it comes down to the releasing and surrendering to the flow of you trusting exactly what you said and full acceptance for who you are. it kind of like the flow starts to not only speed up, but I
Mm.
had more trouble in a 9 to 5 corporate job, juggling mum life and all that stuff, more trouble then than I do now. And I'm like juggling so much more. I feel like I have so much more capacity and expansion to hold it all because I'm like, oh, yeah, I can run a digital business and I can also teach people on the crypto space. And then I can also run a Reiki business and I can also help a friend launch her business. And I can also go to retreats and hold space with facilitators, possibly run my own. And like, it's just like, whoa, how do you have so much time? And I want to do burlesque dancing. And I want to spend more time with my kid. Like, I all of a sudden have so much more expansion and love for things than I ever did because I trust everything that comes to me is for reason. And it's like, I
Yeah.
don't resist anything anymore. And when I
Right.
see opportunities, I see opportunities.
Yeah. And it's living in that frequency of going, hey, the people around me are within the frequency I want to be in or that I am in. It's about going and being aware and open to the possibilities. It's the trust, it's the surrender,
Mm.
and it's also loving yourself wholeheartedly.
I feel so grateful because the people that I'm surrounding myself with now, to think that you're at the same frequency as them is such a compliment. Such a, like, people are beautiful. Yeah. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, I did. I love you. And it's just a reflection, right? Everybody
Mm.
who we surround ourselves with, our life, everything that's in our reality is purely because of the way that we show up, the way that we behave. It's our projection. And when we see such beauty and such love in people and the high frequencies, and we're just like, wow, look at you. It's because it's within us that we can make that call. We can make that call.
Exactly. And I think
Yeah.
that's what, yeah, really like that reflection on both ways. It's like, if that's in them, then that's in you. Like, that's so endearing.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah. Cause
It's
like,
been
yeah,
it's been an absolute honor, and like I talk into sisterhood here where we've been able to really come together and just feel like our souls have been on this journey forever and a lifetime, and to create a community and a sisterhood that holds each other so freaking powerfully, beautifully. And it's like our sisterhood now is something that, you know, I could have only ever have dreamt of once upon a time. And it's because of the evolution. It's because of the growth journey. It's because of the ability to be a Pokemon and evolve, but to also step into our power, right? And so now we're
Mm.
surrounded by beautiful, powerful women who are fucking owning this lifetime and this world. And there's so much more to offer us all in this space. Like our journey's only just
Mm.
begun, and I can't wait for it. It's such
Yeah.
a
It's
privilege and
so
an honor.
exciting.
Yeah. I'm so
'Cause every
grateful
time
that
you
you
step
guys.
forward, it's like permission for us to step forward, and every time they step forward, it's like I've heard this in the past and in different groups, and it's like people not believing that that can be real and that it's
Mm,
fake and that, you know what I mean? Like, if you believe that, that is the reality that you create.
yeah.
And so it's changing the perspective and the belief system about people and about sisterhood and about, you know, wanting people to win.
Yeah.
Like, do you truly want
Yes.
them to win?
There's no competition. It's like you hold each other and you make sure you hold each other out because it is your life force too. Like you're
Mm.
all one. It's like I like one thing that does peeve me off is that competition mindset. It's like, well, you can't take my client because then I won't have a client. It's like, no, because I've
Plenty.
got power and skills and codes at this level, and you've got power, skills, and codes at this level, and the person needs both of it. It
Yeah,
just like there's actually enough for everybody to have. There's so much out there for everybody to have whatever it is that they desire. Mother
exactly.
Earth is endless, and so is the universe. Like I get so passionate about this space. So
I definitely do. Working in like low ticket MLMs for a really long time, high ticket places. Even like the service world, everyone talks about it. Well, then nobody talks about it, but everyone behind closed doors does it and thinks it, you know, and they're like, well, you're going to message me because that was my client, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I've come to terms with if someone says like, you know, oh, this, I saw you talking to this person and like, you know, that's my person on my line. Nobody's owned
anybody's. Yeah, that's
anybody.
right.
And two, I totally surrender to whatever that is. Like you said, everyone has codes to give and to receive, and we all get to do this together. Yeah,
Mm.
there's no like yours and mine.
It's like, and this is where I speak into the fact that I've now rebranded to Letitia May Collective. It's a collective. We
Mm,
don't just solely, like, it comes from an egoic mindset to say that you're the only person who is right for this other person to help them on their journey. Like, that comes from such an egoic mindset. We actually need to work together as a collective because we may need to help in the different skill sets and areas that we have. So somebody might need money help, but at the same time need mindset help. And so two people together might be able to do that, but they might also need energetic help to allow, once they work on their mindset, to allow the abundance flow to come in with their finances. Like, you actually need to
exactly.
work together. And sometimes, like, if we're talking about finances, sometimes it's actually a relationship and family dynamic that needs to be fixed. So you need to bring in somebody with, like parenthood counseling codes or, something to that extent. You've got to focus on all different elements to balance yourself out. And you're not the only person who can do it all. You can
Yes.
actually rely on your sisterhood so you don't burn yourself out, and you work together as a collective to help support and uplift the rest of humanity out there.
Yeah. And it's coming back to like the abundance of like abundance as a birthright, abundance as a soul right.
Mm,
Like we are limitlessly abundant and it's all here for us. And it's like there's actually no lack of, or there's no not enough, or it'll run out. Like we all get to, and I think even on my vision board, I have collaboration over competition. And I stayed true to that integrity for myself to change the actions and my thought patterns on like, I truly want to collaborate, not with any hidden agenda, not with any benefits to myself or anything. It's like truly want to collaborate for humanity. If you just take yourself out of it and start thinking of the bigger picture, the collective, the picture of like, if we rise, we all rise. When we rise, the systems fall. Like I always love that because that's my main goal. It's like moving this because we are in a shift in the timeline,
yeah,
huge shift where things are crashing and you can see it. The fiat system is crashing. The powers that be are like, and it's
yeah,
all crashing. And we're in the era of when the people rise. And so
yeah,
you can see the consciousness rising. You can see the people, and the Palladians have already like hit Earth around March this year. So it's like we're all going to be rising. So
yeah.
get on the train of the new Earth, of the new direction that everyone's going into, and just like leveling up your frequency. That's my biggest thing.
And when we talk into New Earth, it's about the remembrance, it's about expansion, it's about awareness, it's about allowing yourself to realize you don't have to come from that lack mindset. You can actually come
Mm.
from an abundance mindset, and abundance means community too. So, like, it's such a deep dive into that conversation that we'll definitely have another day.
I
We'll definitely have another day.
was like, box that up, put that in a shelf. We come back
Yeah.
to you.
Yes, we will. Shahnee, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. We've talked about all sorts of weird and wonderful things, amazing things. It's always so heart expanding to be able to have conversations at this level, in this depth. I always talk into the fact that I love deep conversations. I don't like surface level bullshit. And I love that you bring that every single time to our conversations anyway, and that we can just be really true to ourselves and each other. Like, I think it's absolutely magnificent and powerful. And I'm sure the listeners and viewers have enjoyed it too. If there's one thing that you can leave the listeners with today that might challenge them, impact them, help them, whatever it might be, do you have some sort of final thoughts around that?
So many things like
Which one do we grab?
I keep hearing believe. If you believe it's true, it's true. And it really does come down to that. Your whole, if you think you're powerful, you are. If you think you have gifts, you do. If you feel like there's something out there for you to go launch into and it's going to be successful and it's going to be amazing and it's going to be effortless and easy, it will be. You just truly have to believe it. And I think giving yourself time to dream is very important, very important. I think people just get so busy and caught up with shit that they don't actually give themselves time to like sit and dream. And you don't have to journal. You don't have to go to places. Like, the embodiment is free. You do it daily. It's a thought. And you think all the time, so you might as well think some good shit.
I love that. So if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. If you believe it's true or you believe it's not true, you're right. If you think you are and you think you're not, you're right. Like, it doesn't, whatever you think, you're correct. It's okay. And you can change that opinion too if you learn and know better and do better.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
beautiful.
Works in all aspects. Thank you so much, Letitia. I really appreciate you. And
I
I
appreciate
love
you.
it. And
Yeah.
one last thing, my sister said that I have to ask if you know anything about Taylor Swift, that her album just came out yesterday and she's really excited. I know nothing about it, but I need to say it on the podcast. You're welcome, Kaylee. You're welcome.
Thank you so much to Shahnee for joining us today. Until next time.
Bye. Love you.
Thank you so much for being here with me today on Align and Elevate. If this conversation spoke to you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who needs it too. Make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you feel called, leave a review. It truly means the world and helps more women find this space. You can always come hang out with me on Instagram at Letitia May Collective for daily inspiration, or visit my website in the details linked below to explore my offerings, ways to work together, and all things the Letitia May Collective. Remember, you are powerful, you are purposeful, and you are never alone on this journey. Until next time, keep aligning, keep elevating, and keep coming home to your truest self.